a book about lesbians. Our Wives Under the Sea. Hi, welcome to Book Hunt. If you're new here, my name's Nell, and I'm a hedonist who reads for pleasure and to see the world in new ways from new and interesting perspectives. Okay, this one is written by Julia Armfield. She is from London and born in 1990, same year as my baby sibling. Other works include Salt Slow, which was a collection of short stories, I believe, that was very well received. And Julia was also featured in an anthology called Outsiders, which also includes Bookshi's very own Jen Campbell. So things to potentially pick up in the future. What's it really about? It's about a relationship, and it's definitely a depiction of love and grief and loss, and even that impermanent loss when we miss someone that we love but we know we're going back to them, or we believe we're going back to them, and that in-between stage when someone isn't where you expect them to be, but they're not dead, so you don't know what's happened to them, and being stuck in that limbo, but that often happens with people who go missing or people who are in a coma indefinitely, those sort of in-between states where you don't feel like you can quite let go. But interesting. I really like a book like this where the metaphysical, fantastical interpretation can sit beside a metaphorical interpretation, and both can exist in your mind simultaneously without you having to choose which is true. I think that authors who can create that environment and have both sort of Schrodinger's cat versions of their novel exist in the same space and allow you to make inferences from one to the other, it just adds a richness that doesn't always stay there if you give the plot an answer or a conclusion, or you conclusively indicate the level of reality. So I thought that was really good. I thought the writing was delicious. I really liked the characters, although they were, ultimately like normal humans, not perfect. I very much related more to the character who stayed on land because she seemed a little bit socially anxious. Mostly, and a bit shit at like keeping up to date with friends and that sort of thing when she got in her own head, and I very much relate to being that person and feeling guilty about it. So but I think my favourite character, despite relating to the character who stayed on land, I really, really enjoyed the nerdy, feministy side of... I've forgotten their names. The nerdy feministy side of Leah, who had all these facts about the sea and creatures in the sea and women who had been in the sea, and the fascination and dedication to learning about something that fascinating. I really enjoyed that in a character. It reminded me a lot of my best friend, who is always learning and is the most interesting person in the world because of it, because you'll get a message about, I can't even predict what the next message will be about. Something's intestines, or the history of a word, or you can't predict, but it's always an interesting fact that unravels into an interesting discussion. And I really felt like Leah was that person too, except it was just a little bit more narrow. And so I enjoyed seeing that depiction on the page. I also really enjoyed the complete, or almost complete, absence of men in this book. There's only one sort of character who is male, and they're quite inconsequential. I really enjoyed watching a lesbian relationship it's clearly written by a lesbian, because there's no mimicry of the power dynamic that exists in patriarchal society. in a heterosexual relationship. There was no, it was truly equal. It was clearly truly equal, and no one was trying to manipulate it to not be truly equal, and no one was on the defense because of expectations. Like, it was just what it was, and they were who they were, and they were both independent adult humans who were coexisting and loving each other. And that was amazing to me as someone who is a heterosexual in a patriarchal society. I understand that any romantic relationship that I have will be in the context of having to negotiate a patriarchal power dynamic. And I'm pretty, like, this is not me ragging on my husband. It's just the reality of the framework of our relationship because of society. So that was really striking to me in this novel. It was also, it was really nice. It was like, there were parts of it where I felt like, you know, when your friend meets someone new and they're telling you about them and they're telling you dumb stories, but they're so excited. It felt like from both sides, both women were describing their lover in that way, in that enthusiastic flush of recognition that this is a thing, that this is something that's going to be important. And I thought it was really beautifully done. I also enjoyed, there was like a little undercurrent of distrust of employers and the manipulation of people for money, and the sort of, not a super big anti-capitalist vibe, but I definitely felt like when Leah returns from work and there's no information forthcoming, that lack of responsibility and care for your worker was like an unspoken resentment and an unspoken expectation, even in a capitalist society. And I thought that was interesting, quiet commentary. I did really enjoy this book. It was just a beautiful love story, and if you like a little bit of magic, like, the surrealism and the fantastical elements were intriguing and very well done and very well blended into our reality, in a way that didn't leave you feeling like the author had bent their own rules. And I really enjoyed, like I said earlier, the coexistence of the metaphysical, fantastical elements as a metaphor and as a storyline. That's my thoughts on Our Wives Under the Sea. I would really like to hear from anyone else who's read it. What did you think? What would you recommend that I read next? And if you haven't read it, are you going to pick it up? Please like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks. Love you. Bye.